I want to get to this Foster Moreau thing.
So sad.
Now, my understanding, and I read a little bit about this last night, about Hodgkin's lymphoma. Okay? It's a type of cancer that affects your lymphatic system. That's a part of your body that's a germ-fighting immune system kind of thing. It's a serious thing, right? Yeah. And they checked his white blood cells. That's where he found it out. The survival rate of that disease has improved over the last few decades, largely due to advances, obviously, in treatment. It's 90% survival rate, right? Now, that's over the first 5 years. Stuff like this can come back, okay?
Yeah.
And so there's, Foster Moreau came out and said, hey, I got to step away from football to start this treatment. His words were, I plan on kicking its tail just like I have everything else in my life, and I'll get back to what I used to do. I was reading the story about, did you guys read the story about this Saints doctor?
No, I haven't heard. I haven't delved into this story at all.
This isn't, to me, whoever this guy is, if I have to go to the doctor next time, I'm going to tell you what his name is. Let me find it here in a second because it was a big part of this story. Okay, so the Saints, like the Bengals, if you didn't see this, the Saints, like the Bengals, they bring in Moreau, who's a free agent, looking into signing him, potentially signing him. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this guy's name right. Longtime Saints head physician. His name is Dr. John Amos, Amoss. Okay. He helped make this diagnosis when they did this physical on this kid in for the visit, right? This is the same guy that discovered the old Philadelphia Eagles long snapper. Remember John Dornbos? You remember him? Do you remember that name?
No.
It was a story a number of years ago that he had this aortic aneurysm in 2017. Again, simple physical. Moreau walks in the door. He's a free agent tight end. He's got teams that want him. He feels healthy. He's 25. He's big. He's strong. He's fit. You're going to do your physical. No big deal. Not coming off an injury. Nothing like that. Best year as a pro. And just like Dornbos back in 2017, this Dr. John Amos, or Amos, however you pronounce it, and I'm sorry, this guy undergoing a physical by the Saints medical team was the one who found this lymphoma of this guy yesterday and Dornbos 4 years ago. Can you imagine what it must be like for that kid walking in the door? Now, look, I'm not going to say this isn't life and death because it could be life and death. When you get cancer, a lot of us have had family. My mom died of cancer. A lot of us, we've had friends and family die of cancer. The big C word is not a good word. But he's young, he's strong, he's healthy. This kind has a good success rate. There are worse pieces of news in the world you can get. Say it's your child. Okay? Put it in some perspective here. But for this young man to all of a sudden going from thinking, man, I'm about to make millions and millions and millions of dollars, to all of a sudden wondering if you're going to be alive in a year from now.
I know. I think what makes the situation sad, I don't know how much of this is true, but the first thing that came to my mind when I heard about this was he doesn't have a team. There's no money that was guaranteed to him. He hasn't had a big payday yet. That was off his rookie deal, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
And I don't know if he's got any health benefits. Is that what the
I
team
have
usually
to
provides?
believe the players' union has him under, or he is. It's funny you say that because I thought the same thing. Now I can't speak for football because their setup is nowhere close to the way baseball is. Nowhere close.
Right.
But baseball players get their medical insurance. Of course, teams will take care of things as they come up. But for a player, the union medical plan. Now I don't know what the deal is with the NFL players.
Right, but they have their own. They have both, though, usually, right? Like,
Yes.
if he was diagnosed and he
Yes.
was signed, he would have both the team and the union. Now he just has the union. Not that maybe that really matters. I don't know. I don't know how much it really matters, but it's just really unfortunate that at the age of 25, you're right there to your biggest payday, and he was probably going to get paid at least significantly more than what he will now.
Yep.
You know, like he's going to come back if he. God bless and
Yep.
hope that
Right,
he comes
right.
back.
Yep. Right.
But he's not going to get paid the same that he would have now. I mean, it's just a terrible situation for him. I feel really, really bad for him. I feel bad just talking about it as a Bengals fan. Like, we were expecting at least potentially to sign him. Now it's like, oh, where do we look to now? And I'm like, I don't really even care about that anymore. I just care about the guy. I care about his health and making sure that he gets okay. And, you know, I know as a sports talk show, we have to talk about other replacement options now that are available in the league.
Yep.
But,
And that's where I was going with this.
and it's bare bones right now in terms of guys out there. But were you wanting to say something?
Well, just real quick, the good thing is, and Tom, you brought up the survival rate, and I've known someone close to me that has had this disease, and he came back, he beat it. But also, there's been several professional athletes that have had this diagnosis. Two that come to mind as a Cubs fan, Anthony Rizzo and John Lester, both had this diagnosis. Anthony Rizzo's story was he got drafted 19 years old. He's playing in single-A baseball, hitting 400, and all of a sudden he just isn't as strong as he used to be. Goes in and checks in. He's falling asleep all the time. He just feels really weak, and they go in, well, he has cancer. 19 years old, just drafted, thinking about making a move, and John Lester had a very similar story, and both of them have come back. They've beat the disease and have had all-star careers.
Yep.
So
Hall of Fame careers, maybe.
Yeah, John Lester might be knocking down the door of Cooperstown someday. So you're hoping that Foster can beat this quickly, and get back in the game, which I know that he's a strong guy, strong-willed guy. He's gonna beat it. So hats off to Foster, and hopefully he comes back.
Well, the real Spirit Cat 1 also points out in the chat, Mario Lemieux came back from this.
Mm-hmm.
And some feel he, top 3 greatest players in the history of the NHL, right?
Right.
All right, it leads us, and James Rapien, our good friend who was on the program yesterday, now talks about, okay, if the Bengals don't want to draft a guy with a 28th pick, it's a tight end.
Yeah.
What are their options at this point in the free agent market? We know that Hayden Hurst is gone. Drew Sample right now is not on the roster. Devin Asiasi is the only tight end currently on the roster. So you have Irv Smith Jr. There were huge expectations about this guy coming out of college. It's just never happened. And, guy's a good blocker, good speed, good athlete. He's only 25. Cameron Brate is 32. Proven pass catcher. Has had an excellent career in Tampa. He lost a lot of his – he was really trending to being one of the better tight ends in the league. And then Gronkowski comes in and sort of steals a lot of his time and his thunder. Mercedes Lewis is the ageless one. Great blocker, has been one of the great players in the league. This guy is just an outstanding player. And then you get into some guys that most of us have never heard of. Anybody stand out for you guys in that group? Or are you using that number 1 pick on a tight end at 28?
Well, Tom, there's a couple guys I like, but there's some guys' names that I don't think a lot of us are really talking about that have ties to Cincinnati already. Mitchell Wilcox, he's out there. I mean, might as well re-sign him to a vet minimum, get him back.
You killed him last year.
Huh?
You killed that guy last year.
No, that was the other guy.
Oh, Sample. Missing a block against Pittsburgh.
Yes.
On the game-winning kick.
Unforgivable. Mitchell Wilcox, though, he was on the roster last year. There's guys like Tyler Kroft. I know he's 30, but that's your blocking tight end if you want that back. I like Irv Smith just as a one-year flyer. Whatever they do, I don't think they're going to sign anyone long-term. I don't think any of these guys are getting more than a one-year deal, regardless of age or how they performed. But some guys that are on the market right now that I like the most, I like Mitchell Wilcox coming back on a 1-year deal. I like Cameron Brate. I think that's an underrated player.
A little older now than the
little
Bengals
older.
normally like.
Yeah.
Smith's 25, Brate's 32.
Yeah, and Irv Smith, I do like him on a 1-year deal, but regardless of what they do now in free agency, I think they are forced to draft someone at some point as a tight end. In years past, I think they kind of just were like, oh, we'll get to it, and they just never got to it. And I think maybe like last year was a perfect example of that. I think they were looking at maybe getting a tight end. They scouted a lot of tight ends. They just never got around to it. They were picked really early. This year, this class is just really talented, really good. I think they're going to have to spend a premium pick. They're going to have to spend a second-round pick or third-round pick on a guy, maybe a little early. And I'm interested to see who they end up selecting at 28, but my guess is that they're not going to pick tight end at 28 because it's just so hard to get value at 28 from the tight end position. There's just too much for them to learn year one, and a lot of guys are just misses. It's very rare that you get a hit at the first and in the first round at tight end. A lot of these guys, you get them in the third round, like Kelsey or Kittle or Andrews or list any of them. I don't think there is one tight end right now. Maybe Dallas Goedert that was selected.
Who's the kid that went to the Falcons?
Kyle Pitts, but
Kyle
I mean,
Pitts is pretty good as a rookie, right?
Yep.
he was a good receiving tight end. I don't know what. That's a very underrated player that we could potentially trade for. I know the Falcons just traded for Jonnu Smith as a tight end. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe he's available. Probably not. I mean, it would be a lot of capital to go get a guy like Kyle Pitts, but
Yeah, they're not going to get Kyle Pitts. That's
Yeah,
not
that would-
happening.
but I think
It's a big-time guy in your offense. He wants to catch passes. That's what he came out of college known as. He's a fourth option at best here. You know, Smith is a guy who he's young, injury-prone is the problem.
Yeah.
19 and 20, played very well in a Minnesota offense that had a ton of weapons. That's when Stephon Diggs was still around.
Right.
Much like the Bengals. They had Diggs. They had Thielen back when Thielen was Thielen 3-4 years ago.
Right.
I mean, they have always had excellent running backs. So Smith put together 2 really good years. But then in 2021, he gets hurt early, misses the entire year. Messes up his knee, right? Puts on injured reserve. Then last year, he gets off to a really good start. I mean, I'm looking up his numbers from last year, and he started the season very, very well. In fact, he was their second-best pass catcher over the first 8 weeks of the season. But then he goes on injured reserve with an ankle injury. So the last 2 years, he has played a total of 8 games. But does that mean you get a guy on the cheap that doesn't sound too bad? 25 years old. Bengals don't like signing guys in their 30s.
Right.
Although I tell you, if you're looking for a guy that can block, and when you do throw it to him, he catches it. I know he's against the grain on everything the Bengals are looking at, but Lewis is a player.
Can I throw another just
Sure.
off the wall name at you guys?
Absolutely.
I joked around in the Discord about this last night. Rob Gronkowski hasn't played in a couple years, still 33.
said he wanted to come play for us at some point.
Said he
right?
wanted to come play with Joe Burrow. I don't think he wants to commit to the regular season, unfortunately. But, I mean, he'll be cheap.
I'd bring him in.
I'd bring him in. He's won Super Bowls.
I'd bring him in. Guy's a winner.
I think
There's gamer, no doubt about it. I mean, I know he's, goofy and all that, but the guy's a gamer.
He can block. He can catch.
Winner.
I don't know if he can catch anymore, but he can still block. I mean, I like Gronk.
Yeah, I think another thing that we might not be thinking about as much is we are trying to trade Jonah Williams away. There is a potential to trade a player for player.
That's right.
A name that a lot of people have been throwing around. I'm not going to pronounce his first name, but it's Okwanu from Tennessee, a tight end. He's a pass-catching tight end, not much of a run blocker, but he's 23 and a half years old, from Maryland. He's pretty decent, graded out really well on PFF. He was a starter halfway through the season, started taking over snaps, and he played really, really well as a starter. So that's an underrated trade option potentially, and Titans need a left tackle after Lawan Taylor just got cut.
Or Taylor Lewan, either
Taylor
one.
Lewan, whatever.
His friends call him Lewan Taylor.
Yeah, Lawan Taylor. But other than that, I haven't done a lot of research on potential trade targets, but besides this guy, Okwanu. But yeah, I mean, who are your targets, Tom? Is it just Brait and Irv Smith? Are those your two guys that you're?
They got to do something. I mean, look, I've never been a big fan. The Bengals have been a big fan of taking a tight end in the first round. They've done it before. And maybe they look at this whole thing and they're like, you know what? Why would I go pay any of these guys anything when I can draft a guy who I really believe in for the long haul, get him on a rookie deal, and make that my first-round pick? I'm not necessarily a big fan of tight end for this franchise. Not for this team. They got too many other guys that are a priority in your offense.